It's safe to say that even if you're a fan of multiple projects, or maybe even in some cases all the projects in phases 4 and 5, that a lot of it did not stick the landing, and a lot of Marvel suffered due to the amount of output that they had. Well, these recent failures are causing Marvel to reassess their entire strategy. Okay, so in this video, what we're talking about is a piece of a much bigger article that I really got to get into bit by bit to talk about what's going on, because if I just covered everything in one 10-minute video, it would honestly be too rushed. So I'm going to have to break this down bit by bit. So in this, we're talking about the Wall Street Journal, talking about what's going on with Marvel Studios, Kevin Feige, and the Disney overhaul, if you will, of Marvel Studios. So here's the quote we want to focus on here. The Wall Street Journal reveals, and I quote, "Kevin Feige is leading an internal overhaul aimed at getting the studio back on track." End quote. Now, at face value, what exactly does this mean? And it means that Marvel Studios is going back to the old ways of doing things, for better or for worse, which I'm going to talk about in this video. And we're going to dive a little bit further into what else they say surrounding this quote. So let's get into all of that. So the full quote reads, and I quote, "Now Kevin Feige is leading an internal overhaul aimed at getting the studio back on track. Marvel is making fewer TV shows with standalone stories that don't require prior knowledge of the MCU. Feige is focused on fixing the studio's movie slate following recent flops, like February's Captain America Brave New World," and I suppose at this time we can see that Thunderbolts will be among the flops as well. Okay, so let's talk about this overhaul and what does this mean. So what we find out during the course of the article is that Kevin Feige essentially got backed up into a wall, and they got stretched too thin way too soon, and there was too much stuff. On top of this, quality control and quality assurance ended up falling out of favor, if you will, and they found themselves making more TV shows than films. Not a lot of oversight could be seen and apply to every individual project. And then things started to get a little bit worse and fall apart a little bit more because, well, a couple factors. One, the pandemic. Two, terrible planning. Three, the fact that Disney figured infinite growth can be sustained, which it never can. And there's a couple more things you can add on here, but I think you guys get what's going on. And what's been stated right now, and the Wall Street Journal covers this, is that they are going to pull back in a pretty massive way in terms of how they approach this overhaul. So think of phase 4 and 5. Think of how many shows we got. And then think of how many films we got. So just look at how many projects they were able to put out within 4-ish years. In 4 years, they put out more projects than the entire decade prior. And again, we're not including Marvel Entertainment, the TV division, because they were a completely separate entity. So when Marvel took on all that responsibility, everything changed. And if you look at the failures of season 4, or phase 4 and phase 5, you realize that it truly was mismanagement and taking on way too much too soon, not being able to maintain, global problems that caused a whole lot of problems, and then really the rushed nature of so many of their projects and not having the complete oversight of everything like they did before. Now, that's not to say that everything was perfect prior to Endgame. People now pretend like it was. Like, people now hold the Ant-Man franchise in high regards prior to Quantumania. People pretend like Thor is some sort of masterpiece of multiple films. I mean, revisionist history now is telling you that The Incredible Hulk is top 5 MCU film when it spent literally a decade being hated. And again, revisionist history is bound to happen all the time. With Star Wars, it happens with the prequels all the time. Apparently, they were always, at some point, people are now claiming that George Lucas's magnum opus is the prequels. Things change with age. People can rewrite history. We know that for a fact. The fact of the matter is, at face value, is that this overhaul is happening because Marvel failed. They failed on the execution, and they failed to deliver what was wanted from them from Disney, which was infinite growth based on the strongest IP in the world. So, truth be told, reading through this article and looking at everything that the Wall Street Journal is reporting, I think it's safe to say that Marvel is going to focus far more on films going forward, especially after what happened with the quality of Phase 4 and 5, and that TVs are going to take a back seat and be handled like they were more or less before with Marvel Entertainment, just having a little oversight and connection to the bigger MCU. And I think that that's fine. Again, you look at everything with what's going on with Marvel Studios specifically, their output, their ups and downs, their quality, the legal battles that they've been in and continue to be in, and some of the other output that they've had that's been a major success and a victory. You gotta just look at what's happened with Marvel since Endgame to understand that we went from 2 to 3 projects a year maybe to 8 to 12. That's a lot, especially when you put the power of the Marvel Studios is behind everything, marketing machine behind it. Suddenly there is too much. And again, there was more Marvel content when it was Marvel Studios and Marvel Entertainment, but there was a distinct difference, and it didn't affect Marvel Studios to start. They were two independent brands. When you shoved everything under one, things start to fall apart, and that's where you see the end result, and the end result is what happened and the stumbles that were Phases 4 and 5. And mind you, I love many projects from Phases 4 and 5, don't get me wrong, but when they hit a low, they hit the biggest lows in the history of the MCU. And that becomes very problematic with the optics that you have on everything before Endgame was perfect, despite the fact that it wasn't. Thank you for checking out that video, and thank you for your continued support. Feel free to like, share, subscribe, do whatever you will, and if you're so inclined and would like some additional content from us, which includes unfiltered content and bonus discussions, we do offer exclusively in our member section. We hope to see you there. So thank you for watching, and have a good one.